Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Zach.
And I'm Seth.
And we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right, we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
That's right.
How are you?
I'm doing alright, how are you?
I'm okay.
Just okay?
Yeah.
You having a sad day?
No, I don't think so. Just a long day.
Long days turn into long evenings.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, sure.
So, I don't know. It's the middle of, I think it's the middle of June, middle of the year.
Give or take, yeah. June 8th, I believe, is when this episode is debuting.
June 8th, middle of the year, middle of our lives. I keep looking up at some of the episodes that we have planned.
Yeah.
And I see we just keep skipping one.
The Mattel Hyperscan?
No, it's the Kingdoms of Alamore.
That was supposed to be apparently episode 148.
Well, we're getting around to it. Maybe that could be next episode. Anyway, let's not talk about future episodes. Let's talk about this episode.
Yes, let's.
Because it's like, 287, 288 or something. Anyway, Zach, what have you recently been playing?
Recently, Seth, I've been playing Doom: The Dark Ages.
Oh.
Released on May 15th, 2025 by Bethesda. I've been playing it through Game Pass because I managed to get a month free of Game Pass thanks to the fact that I play a lot of Minecraft and you get points when you play Microsoft games, and I just let those points accumulate without even realizing I had points. And then One day I went to check something in my account and it said, "Would you like to redeem these points?" And I said I would. And I ended up redeeming them for
40 years of Game Pass.
That was good for a month, but I've been playing Doom: The Dark Ages, which just came out. It's a prequel to the 2016 Doom, also by Bethesda. In Doom: The Dark Ages, you play as the Doomslayer, who is serving the Makers. The Makers are an angelic appearing race of beings who occasionally assist the people of Argent D'Nur, a realm/city that exists in the different dimensions that are out there. And the Makers and the Night Sentinels of Argent D'Nur are at war with Hell. Hell being run by Prince Azrak, who looks kind of like the devil. He's got big horns, and he's got an upside-down cross on his forehead.
Oh.
That's how you know he's evil, yeah. As the Doomslayer, you're sent to various places that the Makers need you, and your job is to wipe out demonic forces. There's more to the story, but it's being a brand new game and very story-centric. I don't want to spoil too much. What is unique to Doom: The Dark Ages that's different from the previous Doom titles that Bethesda has put out is that it's slower paced and has more emphasis on a parry system. So the Doomslayer is now equipped with a shield that is also a chainsaw. It has sharp edges and it spins around really fast.
Oh, that's fun.
And you can throw your shield like Captain America and it'll come back to you, or you can use your shield to block and parry against different types of attacks. Certain attacks that you parry against will stun an enemy, giving you ample opportunity to attack this enemy. So when you stun an enemy, they'll be staggered for a moment and you can either do a double tap with a punch, or you can blast them with one of your guns. And you are given a plethora of guns. You've got the shotgun, the super shotgun, the plasma rifle, the rocket launcher. There are some new weapons, though. There's a new machine gun type that fires skulls. Basically, it looks like a grinder, and you put the skull in the top, and it just grinds the skull up and just shoots the shards out at enemies.
Oh. It's kind of like, is there a weapon that's like that in Dead Rising, where it's like the garbage launcher, and you just put garbage into it and you just launch stuff? So it's like that, but with skulls. I'm assuming there's a lot of skulls in Doom.
So many skulls. There's also another gun that you can get that shoots rail spikes, and there is a one-handed flail that you can use, so you can hit people with a giant ball, and various other weapons. Some of those weapons I just don't want to spoil if you decide to play the game, because some of them I got and I was like, oh, I'm going to have a lot of fun with this weapon. And yeah, sure enough, it's a game that is very Doom-like. I like it a lot. I think the story is a bit silly. I do like the fact that it's very story-heavy, but Doom Guy doesn't talk much. However, there are moments where characters will be having a conversation, and the Doomslayer will just be in the room with them. So you have these people having this intense conversation, and you've just got this gigantic man in armor just standing there staring at them silently, and then they'll look at him and they'll be like, "Are you ready?" And he'll just nod nod and walk out of the room. And I'm like, Doom Guy's just here for it. Another thing I liked about the game is it does have some new, more open environments. This does, however, make the less open sections of the game feel a bit worse than the open sections. There are also 2 new gameplay additions. One is that you can now fly around a dragon mount in certain levels, and also in some levels you get to pilot a mech, and that mech is called an Atlan, and it kind of looks like a giant Doom Guy, and the Atlan's attack are punch and slap. And occasionally it picks up a gun, but then it just throws the gun when you run out of ammo. So the Atlan is fun though, and these levels can also be varying in terms of their size and scope. So some of the dragon flying levels are a bit more open, some of them are a bit more linear. I think the open ones are a lot more fun, and the linear ones get a bit less fun. Overall though, Doom the Dark Ages is a good game. I like it a lot. One thing I should mention is that the difficulty setting got a little bit of controversy because people didn't like the fact that they changed the name of like the easiest settings. So in traditional Doom, I believe the easiest setting is I'm Too Young to Die. In this one, it's like Doom Slayer in Training or something like that.
Ugh. That's horrible.
People got weird about it on the internet. They're like, oh, Doom's terrible now. What I do like, though, is no matter the option you pick, there is customization for the difficulty you pick. So even if you pick Ultra Nightmare, you can still refine your difficulty if you want to make it even harder or a little easier, but still on that level of Ultra Nightmare. And I kind of like that. I like that there's kind of these kind of settings act as almost like a baseline, and then you can adjust from the baseline. But overall, I think Doom Dark Ages is a great game. I recommend playing it. Seth, what about you? What have you been recently playing?
Well, recently I've been playing a demo called Modulus, which is developed by Happy Volcano and published by Astrological. Modulus is a factory automation game where you cut and color and stamp 3D building blocks. You design and optimize your factories and are trying to fulfill certain things that the game wants you to fulfill, like making a tiny little robot. And there's like these little mine areas, and you put down little extractors, and the extractors pull out little cubes, and then you take the cubes and you can cut them, you can smush them together, you can color them. If you want to color them in beyond black and white, you have to go mine like blue or red things and make like a mixture to get to the blue paint. But then so you have to build an entire like supply chain just to bring you blue paint to fill the paint to be able to get a blue block. You can take a white block and put it with a blue block or whatever. You can mix them. You can cut them in different places. You make them pillars. You can stack them on top of each other. It's kind of like if you were playing Factorio, but you were just using Legos to do it all, which is a lot of fun. The game also didn't really have any sort of like, it was like more of a puzzle game versus a factory game. So like there wasn't really, at least in the demo, there wasn't a like ending of the resource. You put like your block mine on something and it just generated blocks forever. And so it was more of like figuring out efficiencies of how to get different puzzles to flow down to where they needed to be received versus like managing resources. Because even in Factorio, you run out of resources and you have to eventually like move an entire base because you run out of like oil or something. So I think it's kind of interesting with not having a resource to manage and just trying to like manage the products. And so yeah, so it's been a fun game. I played probably close to an hour of it from the demo. I also watched a YouTuber play it for probably about the same amount of time. The demo's out and is free. The demo came out April 7th of 2025, and the actual game is coming out eventually. So I would recommend if you like the Factorio type of games or the kind of like puzzle type games, I recommend checking out Modulus because it's a demo and it's free.
Sounds good. Well, today we're talking about a topic that we've kind of covered before. We're talking about one of the games in the Grand Theft Auto series. In fact, probably one of the most well-known games in the Grand Theft Auto series that isn't GTA 5 or San Andreas. We're talking about GTA 3.
That's right.
Seth, do you have any memories of playing GTA 3?
I do. So my childhood friend Matt and I were friends from like kindergarten, and we grew up down the street from each other. And Matt he ultimately was like my groomsman. We still stay in touch. Not as much as we would like since we're older, but we still like try to talk to each other about every quarter, ideally in every quarter. But we saw a lot of each other when we were in grade school, and he had a PlayStation 2 when it came out. He's also, I think if you listen back to the Doom episode, he's the same person that I play Doom with on his downstairs computer. And so he had a PlayStation 2, and he was allowed to rent car video games.
Ah, okay.
So
I see where this is going.
So we were able to rent anything with a car as long as it was a car video game and there was no violence or any sort of shooting or like we couldn't rent Turok or whatever was the first person shooter on the PlayStation 2, but we could rent, say, Gran Turismo, and I think he owned Gran Turismo at one point in time. We couldn't rent games like Manhunt, but we could rent Twisted Metal. So there's some games that maybe parents, if they knew more beyond what it was, would probably not approve of, but it still had cars on it, so it was still a car game. And then there was Grand Theft Auto, which had auto in the title, and we were allowed he eventually bought Grand Theft Auto 3. And that game was so eye-opening to me for a new PlayStation game. Like, it just from a game of that era, it was so open world. All the characters were like voiced, and there was like cutscenes, and it was like you felt like you were part of the world, and you could go anywhere, and you could do whatever you wanted. You could do really whatever you wanted to. Like, you could just beat people up on the street. You can run people over. You could, like just have a great time playing the game. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure we beat the game together. Like, we would pass off missions for each other. So like because it's a single player game. So he would play and would get a mission done, and then I would play and I would get like another mission done, and then sometimes like we'd do maybe 2 missions in a row, or like maybe there was a mission that he was like better at or I was better at, and we play those missions. But ultimately I'm pretty sure we made it pretty far through that game, and so it was a lot of fun, and I was really glad to have those memories of playing Grand Theft Auto with a friend, because I didn't get Grand Theft Auto myself until it came out on the PC much later.
Yeah, fair enough.
But so what about you, Zach? Do you have any memories of Grand Theft Auto 3?
Not the same way that you do. I did have a friend who had a copy of Grand Theft Auto 3 for the PS2. They had GTA 3, and I think they had Vice City. And I remember playing it a bit at their house. However, we mostly stuck to multiplayer games. We didn't really do the same thing you did. We mostly stuck to playing like Battlefront 2 in games that were like dedicated split screen or time splitters, something like that. But I definitely remember playing through it a bit and just kind of being overwhelmed by the game, I think, because it was just really something that I was not used to, was this vast open world explorative type game. And the being able to just like steal a car off the street was something that was like so unique of an idea for a video game, especially going back to like 2001 when I would have been playing this. Those are at least my memories. I definitely picked it up later on PC, at least through Steam, because I think Steam had it for a while, and I played it that way. I mean, it still kind of holds up. It's a little different compared to playing like the later GTA games, but I still think it holds up.
Yeah, I definitely still think it holds up. It is a little bit jarring to go back to play it after playing, especially if you play a lot of like either 5 is its like own thing, right? But if you play a lot of like 4 and of the different iterations of 3, being San Andreas and Vice City, I think going back and playing the original, even from Vice City, is a little different, mostly because I feel like CJ and Tommy Vercetti add a lot to the game, their characters, and the character in the first one doesn't talk. You can impart yourself a little bit more into the character, and so you can kind of make your own kind of thoughts about can be more creative about what your character's kind of thinking or his motivations. GTA Vice City and onwards, it's more of like you're playing a movie, right? The character clearly has their own ambitions, and you're just kind of playing them out. I do want to say that I believe Vice City also, Matt ended up getting a copy of, and we played through a lot of Vice City as well. He probably got San Andreas, but I don't know if I played San Andreas with him. But definitely like GTA 3 and Vice City were like top choices when we were together. So as we alluded to, we talked about Grand Theft Auto's history back in episode 176. Just as a recap from the last time we talked about this topic, Grand Theft Auto was created by DMA Design Limited, who are today known as Rockstar North. DMA Design was founded back in 1987 in Dundee, Scotland, and is currently headquartered in Edinburgh, Scotland. The company began life when David Jones, Russell Kay, Steve Hammond, and Mike Daly met up frequently for Kingsway Amateur Computer Club in the town of Dundee. The group was primarily ZX Spectrum or Commodore 64 users, with Jones being the exception as he owned an Amiga 1000. Together, they often worked on various small projects such as Moonshadow, Freakout, and The Game with No Name. Later, while attending Dundee Institute of Technology, the group worked under a temporary name called Acme Software to publish a game together. This game would become Draconia, and it was a space shooter style game where you flew through various levels fighting aliens, flying skulls, and other beasts.
In 1987, the team incorporated as DMA Design, with the name being pulled from an Amiga programming manual. The acronym DMA for computers refers to direct memory access, but for the company, it had no meaning. It was just fun. In 1988, they renamed the game Draconia to Menace and published it on the Amiga, Atari ST, C64, and on MS-DOS. DMA would continue putting out games, and in the 90s, they would start work on what would become their first Grand Theft Auto. It began life as Race and Chase and was planned to be an MS-DOS, Windows 95, PlayStation, Saturn, and N64 title. Ultimately, the final game wouldn't make it to the Saturn or N64, but it would be put out on a bunch of other consoles, like DOS and PlayStation and Windows. The game started development in 1995, was first playable in 1996, and would be released in 1997. Reportedly, part of the reason for this delay was due to issues with development, which included almost being canceled on multiple occasions. The game was written in C++ and would later be ported to the Game Boy Color after being initially released on PlayStation and Windows. The music for the game was inspired by the idea of just driving around and listening to the radio. 3 members of DMA composed various radio tracks and recorded them in the company's office. There are 7 radio stations and a police band track. You can also load in your own music by taking out the game disc and inserting a music disc after the game has fully loaded.
Grand Theft Auto was a bestseller when it launched in the UK. It quickly sold over 1 million units in combined sales of the PlayStation and PC version, and despite any controversies, would power on with a sequel released in 1999 called, uniquely, Grand Theft Auto 2. The sequel would follow much of the same gameplay and design of the first game, but it did do quite as well in terms of either sales or critical reviews. An IGN review from Jeff Gerstmann called the game a lot of fun, but also highlighted the gameplay is largely the same as GTA 1. So they needed to figure out how to make it different. And oh boy did they. I feel like they then unlocked the secret to billions and billions of dollars. Despite the lackluster support, DMA Design would begin working on their next game alongside Rockstar Games. This next game was originally built as a tech demo for the Sega Dreamcast, and the development on it began around the end of GTA 2's production. Rockstar wanted to release a 3D game, and DMA took on the challenge. In the year prior, 1998, DMA worked on 2 3D games, Body Harvest and Space Station Silicon Valley. To create what they imagined as the 3D game that Rockstar wanted, they decided to combine the elements of Body Harvest's open world exploration with the city-level design of Space Station Silicon Valley. The original plan wasn't to make a GTA game, largely because Grand Theft Auto 2 was in development, and the team didn't want to take away from the attention or resources from that project. Instead, they decided to work on a potential Godzilla title. And if you listen back to our Godzilla episode, you'll realize how successful a lot of those games are.
Now, in 1999, Take-Two Interactive would acquire DMA and would merge the Space Station Silicon Valley team with the Grand Theft Auto 2 team. So, the team that was working on a game that wasn't supposed to be on the next Grand Theft Auto suddenly had a bunch of Grand Theft Auto people working on their game. So the game became Grand Theft Auto 3. They planned to keep the game on the Dreamcast. However, the PlayStation 2 became a better opportunity for them to both utilize better hardware, but also aim for a system that had, most chance at making money, as opposed to the Dreamcast, which was failing even by 1999.
Yeah, heaven forbid they create a game for a company with a company that actually supports the system that they're developing.
Yeah, right. While they were still developing the game for the Dreamcast, they did manage to flesh out the design of some of the city blocks. They had brownstones, docks, retail areas. They even had some pedestrians walking around. They also started to create vehicles and then would shift the project over to development fully on the PS2. And part of the appeal of the PS2 over the Dreamcast was that the PS2 used DVDs. DVDs could store more content, allowing them to build a bigger world. However, they were still limited to only 32 megabytes of RAM that the PS2 had. So yes, they could build a big world, but they needed to make sure this world could render and work properly. One major issue that the team encountered was just also the sheer amount of audio they needed. A 3D world isn't just visuals. They had to record everything, conversations that NPCs were having, radio voiceovers, and assorted ambience. It's estimated that around 8 to 18,000 lines of dialogue were recorded. The game would feature also over 3 hours of in-game radio, with different stations featuring music and talk radio. They wanted the radio to feel authentic, so they wanted you to be able to drive down the street and swap from radio station to radio station and it be a seamless experience. And to do this, they brought on real DJs to play DJs in the game.
Yeah, Rockstar does a pretty amazing job when it comes to the radios in all of their games. I think it's really understated, but they also, not only do they really try to bring in a authentic radio experience while you're driving around, but they also get radio experience for the time and place. Like the radio stations in Vice City really tune into where you are there. Same with San Andreas, GTA 4, GTA 5. Like it just feels like the area you're in and the time that you're playing in. Now, for the actual design of the world, they would be inspired by Brooklyn, Queens, and suburbs of New Jersey, and Manhattan, and with a mixture of Chicago and Philadelphia. So, American City is what they're inspired by. Sam Hauser, president of Rockstar and executive producer, also stated that they were inspired by movies like Heat and TV shows like The Sopranos. Yeah, I can see that. The story of the game would be written in part by Dan Hauser, Sam's brother, who co-wrote the story with James Worrell. They were influenced by films like Scarface, Taxi Drivers, The Warriors, and how the mafia are depicted in films like Goodfellas. I know that Taxi Driver is like a crime movie, but wouldn't it be wild if they were influenced by the show Taxi? Now, reportedly during the writing process, the writer's room was filled with post-it notes that they could reconstruct in different ways to shape the game. However, they were designing this game around the 2000s, and there was an event in 2001 that caused the world to change forever, and that was 9/11. And part of the things that they had to change, they altered in the game because they wanted to make it less New York, especially bringing violence to a city that just experienced pretty big violence. They wanted to delineate the game and not have it be tied so closely to the New York influence. So, for example, the police cars used to have the same colors as the NYPD with blue and white stripes, in case you've ever been pulled over by the New York State Police or the city police. This was changed to black and white to match the police departments of LA and San Francisco. Mocap would be utilized to capture the different characters, though some issues would arise due to the amount of vehicle designs, which required some creative thinking. Software engineer Alan Campbell noted that they had to chain together dozens of different animations and altering keyframes in the codes in order to have a seamless animation sequence, because cars are all of different heights, and you have to get into them, and shapes, and you have to get into them in a way that makes sense sedans without having the actor get into 4,000 different cars.
Yeah. I mean, getting into a convertible is different than getting into a sedan, which is different than getting into a pickup truck.
Or a freight truck. Or a tank, all of which are drivable in the game.
Now, in the game, you play as a character named Cloud, who is silent and also in the original game unnamed. He gets a name in one of the later games. They refer to his character as Cloud, but in this first game, he's just a guy. In the beginning of the game, Cloud is betrayed, shot, and arrested in that order. He's betrayed and shot by his girlfriend, soon to be ex-girlfriend, and arrested by the police. He gets sent to prison, but escapes when a Colombian cartel ambushes his convoy to save another prisoner. Cloud gets away and makes friends with a fellow convict named 8-Ball.
I forgot about 8-Ball.
Yeah, 8-Ball's ridiculous.
Doesn't he have does he wear mitts the entire time?
Yeah,
Is there something wrong with his hands? They were burned and he has them wrapped in bandages.
Yeah, he has them wrapped in bandages the whole time.
And anyone whose name is 8-Ball is probably trouble. Just as an FYI. Unless they're really good at pool.
Which he also is, because you play pool.
Yeah, well, we don't know if he's good.
Now, 8-Ball introduces Cloud to the Leon crime family, and Cloud must earn the respect of Don Salvatore and avoid getting killed by Don Salvatore and the Leon crime family, and also just everyone else that wants to kill you. It's a pretty, hodgepodge of, gangster 80s action crime thrillers with some satire mixed in.
I just love the amount of organized crime that is going on in this city. And they're all pitted against each other. And you do jobs for them. And you get to decide who to who's going. Well, you eventually, the plot goes through. But there's a while where you could do missions for. Because you could do missions for the Colombian cartel. You could also do missions for the Italian mafia. And then there's also the Yakuza who show up in the later part of the game. And you could do missions for them. And it's just I'm this city needs some serious help.
In fact, there are 7 major gangs that operate in Liberty City in Grand Theft Auto 3 and 1 minor gang. The major gangs are the Leon family, the Triad, the Diablos, the Colombian Cartel, the Uptown Yardies, the Southside Hoods, and the minor gang is the Farrelly brothers.
Right. It's just the amount of criminal organizations going on within Liberty City. It's truly a city full of liberty.
I do like that apparently toward the end of the game, 5 of the 7 gangs become very antagonistic towards you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're out trying to kill everybody at the end. Is it the Triad you're working for at the end, or is it the Yakuza? I thought the Yakuza are in there.
It's the Yakuza, because the Triad are against you.
Yeah. It's so, there's so many different, it's very silly.
The Southside Hoods and the Yakuza are the only ones who remain neutral towards you.
Yeah, because you end up working for them both, I think. I don't know. I just think it's wild. If you play the game correctly and don't die, you essentially won up the ball.
Now, the game, GTA 3, is an open world action title where you can really freely explore the world of Liberty City. It's a pretty decently sized map for a PS2 game. I looked it up. It is the smaller of the maps of the 3D GTA games. It is 8.12 kilometers squared, which is decently sized. In comparison, Vice City would be 9.11 kilometers squared. GTA San Andreas is 38.2 kilometers squared.
Yeah.
And it is larger than GTA 4, which came out later.
Yeah, well, GTA 4 was Liberty City again.
Yeah, it's Liberty City again. But yeah, no, you have this decently sized world that you can explore, and you really can do what you want. I mean, there are missions, there are story missions and side quests, but if you want to just wander around and steal cars for a bit, you can go right ahead. The game's not going to really stop you from playing the game how you want to play. However, if you do want to just go around and steal cars and cause chaos, be aware that there is a wanted meter. So if you commit crimes and you commit bad enough crimes, you'll become wanted by the police and they will seek you and they will destroy you. Your goal is to, obviously, during these segments, avoid the police, and your wanted meter will cool down if you evade them for long enough.
There is, if you get 5 stars, a tank that shows up which is a good time to get a tank.
The perfect time to get a tank.
There's also a cheat code that spawns tanks and it just falls from the sky and destroys everything. Because the way the tank works is like anything the tank touches just explodes.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
you just drive it around and cars just lightly tap it, they just explode and fly away. The tank is good times. And it can shoot explosions as well.
Beyond your fists that you're going to have as your starting weapon, as most people do, you can also get some pistols, there's some machine guns, rifles, rocket launcher, sniper rifles, and of course, there's a flamethrower that you can get. Is there a jetpack in this one, or is that a later game? I think that's a later. I think that's
it's
GTA
a later game.
San Andreas.
I don't think Claude, because in San Andreas you can swim.
Oh, yes.
So I think swimming and flying came from the same games. And I don't think you can swim or fly in either Vice City or Grand Theft Auto. You auto-fail when you go in the water. So
Right,
anytime your character
you.
needs to do any movement that's not walking. So then when they added swimming for San Andreas, they were like, we can also add flying.
Them adding flying was a very good decision because you could do some silly things when you fly in those games.
Yeah, they added flying in for San Andreas, like jetpack flying in San Andreas. And I'm pretty sure there's a jetpack in 5. I don't believe a jetpack in 4. 4 is very serious compared to the other Grand Theft Autos. You know what's interesting about 4? I know this is not an episode about 4, but maybe we can talk about 4 one other day because 4 is just such a unique. They're all unique special games in their own rights. 4 though is just a flat story, which is kind of unique. So like GTA 3, San Andreas, and Vice City, especially Vice City and San Andreas, you have like a rising action, right? You start off with nothing and you accumulate stuff and you get more powerful. And eventually you're like flying jets around, you own every strip club in Miami, and it's just like everything's great. And you're just on top of the world. And like you just win. At the end of the game, you have everything and you can do whatever you want. Same with 5, kind of. Same kind of like you start with nothing, you get everything at the end. 4, you start with nothing and you kind of end up with nothing. Like 4 is just a sad story of an immigrant who is just trying to get his life around and have his annoying cousin wanting to take him bowling.
Hey!
Cousin!
Hey, let's go bowling.
Anyway.
Yeah, how did GTA 3 do, Seth?
Grand Theft Auto 3 did very well. After its release in 2001, it would quickly become a hit, selling over 2 million units by February of 2002. Within a year, the game sold upwards of 6 million copies and over $250 million in revenue, and by 2007 the number of sales grew to 6.55 million units. Critically, the game also scored well, with Eurogame giving the game a 10 out of 10, Edge giving it an 8 out of 10, GamePro giving it a 5 out of 5, and Game Informer giving it a 9.5 out of 10. Players praised the change from 2D to 3D, the vehicle design, and the overall scale of the game. The game was, however, without controversy. GameSpy would award the game the most offensive game of the year. Walmart would card people who would purchase the game, and many parent groups spoke out against the game and decried it for promoting violence. In 2003, 2 teenage stepbrothers, William and Josh Bruckner, would shoot at motorists, killing Aaron Harmel and wounding Kimberly Beatty. Reportedly, the investigators were told that the Bruckners, they were inspired by Grand Theft Auto 3. This would lead to a lawsuit against Rockstar, Take-Two, Sony, and Walmart, with Rockstar and Take-Two filing for dismissal, citing First Amendment protections. It's sad that there is some controversy tied up with the game. It is very violent. Rockstar would not be stopped. They would go on to make more violent games.
And more controversial games like...
Yeah, Manhunt.
Manhunt, yeah, for sure. But like even just later GTA games would just not be without controversy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Vice City makes GTA 3 relatively tame.
And despite this controversy, Grand Theft Auto 3 has not only been regarded as one of the greatest video games ever made by many publications, it's also widely considered one of the most influential games ever made. For example, titles like Mafia, Saints Row, Sleeping Dogs, Watch Dogs, all of these games would not exist without Grand Theft Auto 3. Red Dead Redemption would not exist without Grand Theft Auto 3. There were open world games that were around, right? I mean, even Body Harvest is an open world game, but Grand Theft Auto 3 redefined what it meant to be an open world action game.
With like the mission progression and all that type of like being able to really explore, but to have purpose is kind of like really like you can have an open world world. And if you think about it, like look at Daggerfall, right? One of the largest open worlds, not a lot of purpose when you're wandering around that world. And so you don't really boot up Daggerfall to explore. Games like Grand Theft Auto 3 and even like think about just like Oblivion, you have purpose when you explore the world, and that's kind of like where open worlds need to really survive, because it's one thing to make a world that's empty, it's another thing to make the world feel full.
Grand Theft Auto 3 would be followed up by Grand Theft Auto Vice City in 2002, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas in 2004, Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories in 2005, and GTA 4 would come around in 2008. There was a period of time where they were putting out like spin-offs of just like GTA 3. So the GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas are regarded as the trilogy, which were all PS2 titles that are kind of all tangentially connected to each other one way or another, and all built on a similar engine. But GTA Liberty City Stories is just kind of a expansion onto the world of Liberty City specifically, and that was a PSP and PS2 release. In the years since the game was ported to various other consoles, PS3 got a copy in 2012. The PS2 version was re-released on PS4 as part of their PS2 Classics series. And in 2021, the definitive edition of Grand Theft Auto 3, San Andreas, and Vice City was released on Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Windows, and Xbox. It did a bunch of stuff like upscaling the game, and that's about it. It actually did really badly.
Yeah, it was not even like a remastered, it was like a repolish.
Yeah, the graphics look mostly the same, but with like better lighting effects on them.
For a full retail price.
What I would compare it to is playing Half-Life versus Half-Life 1 Source, which was the Valve officially released version of Half-Life in the Source engine after Half-Life 2 came out, and it plays exactly the same and has slightly better lighting effects that don't actually make the game look good. Beyond the ridiculous price, it like just scored poorly. Like you look at scores and they're half of what the original GTA 3 was, you know, where one magazine would have given it a 10 out of 10. The magazine gives the definitive edition a 5 out of 10. Anyway, that will do it for our GTA 3 episode. There's probably definitely more we could talk about with GTA 3. It's a large game, both in its size and in its scope. But what we'll do is we can use this episode as a bouncing off point for future episodes where we can talk about the specifics of games like Vice City, San Andreas, even Liberty City Stories, and of course, at some point get into GTA 4. But that will do it for at least our GTA 3 episode. Getting into our retro rewind, Seth had me play Brutal Paws of Furry, which was a game released for the Sega Genesis and developed by Game Tech for the Genesis and Eurocom for the SNES in 1994. It's a fighting game, and it's an obnoxious fighting game. You play as anthropomorphic animals and you fight each other. I played as a character named Ty Cheetah, who kind of looked like the Cheetos mascot. In fact, he looked so much like the Cheetos mascot, I did a quick search to figure out if this game was actually a Cheetos tie-in game. It is not. They just, I think, copied the artwork.
They just rotoscoped the Cheetos guy.
They literally, it's like they traced him. He looks like the Cheetos mascot, except he's wearing like a gi, like a karate gi. Anyway, it's a fighting game. I don't know if I'm just not into fighting games right now because I just found the game obnoxious. The sound effects were really annoying. The gameplay was just kind of repetitive. I couldn't figure out how to do any of the combos, or even if you can do combos. I just don't think it holds up. Next week, Seth, you can play Battle Master for the Sega Genesis.
Zach had me play Aerobiz Supersonic for the SNES, also known as Air Management 2 Goku Owumazashi. So we'll just call it Aerobiz. It's a business simulation game and was developed by Koei and released in 1994. You play as a new CEO of a startup airline company, and man, does this game like to ask you if you're okay with what you're doing. So like first, I'm like, I want to play the game. And they are like, okay, where do you want to play this game? And I'm like, I don't know, Australia. And they're like, okay, how many players are playing? And I'm like, 1. And they're like, okay, do you want to name your airline? Change the airlines, change this color of this, change this. Just a lot of options. And every time you pick an option, it says are you sure? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm sure. And then you finally get into the game. And I thought, so I'm going to be honest, with the name like Aerobiz Supersonic, I didn't know what the hell I was playing. And I thought I was going to be flying the planes. Oh, no. I'm the new CEO, and I have to run the airline company by clicking and figuring out routes with an SNES controller. So I'm dragging this little mouse around, picking out where I want my routes to go, getting spaces in the airports, being able to then get my planes to start flying, picking the fare, deciding how many routes are going, and trying to expand my top market share in 4 locations. I was, as I said, playing as Australia, and I wanted to embody Spirit Airlines. So I started going in, selecting as many routes as I could, and just making the fare the lowest possible. I was like, well, they're going to ride on this anyway, and then I cut all the funding for like the repairs and whatever, who cares? If I could get this plane in the air, people are going to ride on it because it is cheap. And that's what I did. And I was maximizing my time. Then you could send your characters to take over businesses and stuff and like negotiate for new airports in other countries. So I sent some people to negotiate for other airports, and then I sent somebody to go to try and take over the business for the buses, because I wanted to own all the buses. I wanted you to just ride on cheap, broken stuff all the way from your journey to the end. It's like, man, these prices are really cheap, but everything is just falling apart. I didn't have a manual, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and there wasn't any explanations of what the buttons did, but it was still pretty intuitive, and I still had a fun time playing the game. I think if I read the manual, I think I would even have a more fun time game, because I would know how to maximize my Spirit Airlines strategy. I think that it definitely holds up. It's also, there's not a lot of games in this genre of airport simulators. So if you think you can have a lot of fun running an airport company into the ground by chasing the lowest cost fare, then Aerobiz Supersonic might be the game for you. If you think you're going to fly a plane and go supersonic, that is where the biz comes in, and that's not going to happen. Next week, Zach, you could play Metal Marines for SNES.
I will. Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode. If you have any memories of playing GTA 3 or any of the Grand Theft Auto games, let us know. You can email us at classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. We are available wherever podcasts can be found, be it Podbean, iTunes, or iHeartRadio. We're also available on social media. Look us up, Classic Gaming Brothers or CG Brothers Pod. And of course, we're available on our website, www.classicgamingbrothers.com. Seth, am I forgetting anything?
Don't play games like my brother.
And don't play games like my brother.
I've been Seth.
And I've been Zach.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
That's right.